Hello, everyone. Welcome to another week, and happy Easter weekend to all those who celebrate, all those who just like to indulge in chocolate, and everyone else as well. I actually did read books this week. Shock horror. Oh my gosh. I know. Can you believe it? So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I hope that there's some interesting stuff. There's a pretty broad spread of things. A couple library reads. Well, I say a couple. One library read, and the rest is stuff from either last month or previous months or whatever else, insofar as pickups. So yeah, I'll just get straight into it, I think. Hello, Lasagna. Welcome to the live stream. Thanks for taking the time to hang out with me. Also, next week, I don't know. I might be a little bit late with doing this just because I have some other stuff going on, but I should still be able to live stream. It might just be, I don't know. I'm very inconsistent. We know this. We're just, if things change, I'll post about it on Twitter, but it should hopefully be on time. Correct. So I hope everyone's been well. Hello, Archangel Manga. Welcome to the live stream. So getting started for the books that I read this week, and well, manga that I read this week, because I didn't read any actual books. I've been trying to read that light novel. I read one chapter the first day that I got done in the poll, and I was like, okay, and then just didn't get back around to it. And that was 2 weeks or a week and a half ago. So it'll be interesting to see if I am able to finish that. Tells you how invested I am in it so far, which is maybe not that surprising because I've watched the OVA adaptation and it was fine. It's fine. But we're not talking about that because I didn't read that. What I did read, thanks to my library, thanks to my requests put into the library, they finally got the last 2 volumes of Slam Dunk. So volumes 30 and 31. So finished this Shonen Jump sports classic series about a high school basketball team. We have our main character, Sakuragi, who is a newcomer to the sport and joins the basketball team in order to impress the girl that he likes. He's a big delinquent, bit of a doofus, but good in a fight, and has, prior to the series starting, announced or confessed his love 100 times, crazy amount of times, and always been rejected. So when he starts high school, he's like, new year, new me. And he meets this girl and he just loves her, right? She, again, falls head over heels with her. And she's like, you're super tall. Join the basketball team. Hello, Rin. Welcome to the live stream. And thus, the fateful story starts, which culminates to the final 2 volumes, which is what I read this week. The game ended. The game ended in the way that, well, I'm not going to say it was completely predictable. It was oh my gosh. It was predictable in the way that, because this is a sports series, because our characters, our team are the underdogs, we're rooting for them to beat the super good, awesome team, right? But Sakuragi, something happens to him in one of these volumes, which kind of, for drama, well, I mean, it wasn't just done for drama, but it leads to drama, tension, makes you question, oh, what's going to happen? Although I was a bit like, okay, that sucks. Hope he feels better. Maybe that's just callous of me. But I also, as we know, I'm not the super most invested in this particular series. I did overall like it. I don't think it's a terrible series, not at all. And I absolutely understand why people love the series. It's just kind of like, I don't know, it felt like, so the game ends in this volume, and then spoilers for like a 25-year-old manga series, right? Their team win the thing. They win the game against the super good team. Shock or surprise. Who would have thought it? Tension abounds. And then, so they beat this team, but then in the next round, they lose. And then it's like, okay. And then time goes by. Like the third years leave the team and graduate. And now we're just going, future, look into the future. And how do I say this? Because it leaves me with a complicated feeling insofar as I felt like for a 31 volume series, not enough happened, right? Like, it didn't feel like enough happened for it to be over 30 volumes, plus the ending, whilst being satisfying in that they won the thing, and they achieved beyond people's expectations, and it's realistic in that they wouldn't, just go win the big tournament. Like, they wouldn't be the best in the country. Obviously not. But by ending on this particular note and with an open ending of like, oh, Sakuragi and his friend, well, not his friends, because none of these team members like each other, but and his teammates, look at the future, look at all the potential. Now, what's his name is the captain, and now, hello, Zach, welcome to the live stream. And so I was like, okay, it kind of leaves it with, in other series, right? Like other sports series, the team plays a game, a big match against like the big super good school, and lose, and then they feel that heartbreak. They have their first taste of defeat or whatever. This is standard shonen sports drama stuff, but then they come back and they're able to do better than that. And even if they don't win the thing at the end, like if they don't win the big trophy, they've still achieved a lot, and look how much they've grown. In this, it kind of never got to that second stage. In like the last 2-3 chapters is when our rival characters actually have that whole epiphany of like, oh, teamwork, we're playing together. It just feels like 30 volumes of the series was used as preamble to a larger story, or more, potentially, that obviously never happened, right? There's no sequel to this. There's no like spin-off or expansion of the series, right? It's just kind of weird. It left it in a weird spot for me. It left it feeling, and again, I'm not unbiased because I do like a lot of sports manga, but also basketball. I don't really understand. I'm not a sports fan anyway, generally, but basketball is one of those sports that I don't think I'll ever really be a big fan of, comparatively to how a lot of baseball manga frames it, in where I knew nothing about baseball going into baseball manga, but I've learned, and I've been able to learn and enjoy. And again, volleyball through Haikyuu, stuff like that. I don't think you inherently have to know or enjoy the sport to enjoy a sports manga about that sport. But basketball, I can never seem to take seriously enough, so I don't get invested in the drama aspect of it. And there was good parts of this, and there was fun character moments and things like that, but it kind of was like, okay, at the end of the day, these characters don't really like each other and don't really work as a team until literally the last 5 minutes of their last game as a team in this iteration. And yeah, our rivalry never really went anywhere because they just were always they never had a chance to work together until this final volume, or never got to that point where they're like, yes, we're stronger together and we can still be rivals and teammates. Again, comparatively to other series that utilize rivalry better, in my opinion. I mean, Inoue's art is nice, but I also, well, it's just like so many speed lines, right? Because it's, a fast-paced sport and people are running around and passing balls and stuff. Rin, stop calling me out. But this is the thing. Like, I don't want to be. I'm obviously not unbiased, right? I have read Haikyuu prior to this. I love Haikyuu. It is very formative to what I really enjoy in more standard shonen sports series. But even stuff like Chihaya does the rivalry aspect better than this did. Like, I don't know. And again, my opinion, right? My opinion. And it's fine if you disagree. But, like, I just feel in Kuroko, which is another basketball manga, and it's so dumb and like over the top, but it's fun, it's hilarious. There's more of an achievement at the end of that one. All of the dumb, stupid Generation of Miracles rivalry at least had progression and like rapport with those characters. Rukawa and Sakuragi never get on. They never have this moment of clarity of like teamwork until literally the last half, not even the last half of this book, right? Literal, and this is the last book. So like, how am I supposed to take that? It's fine, it's fine. But I'm gonna just say that pretty much every other sports manga that I've read where there's a rivalry in the series, right? Whether it be Hikaru no Go, whether it be Haikyuu, whether it be Chihaya, whether it be Kuroko, whether it be fucking anything free, which is not a manga, but like any of these things, Ace of Diamond, all of it has handled the rivalry in a more, like, as a more of an actual plot point. I don't know why they introduced the rivalry in this as so prominent in the early volumes to then be just used as, well, I don't know, to have Sakuragi be like, I'm gonna beat you the whole time. Rukawa be like, dude, I don't, like, who even are you? Why do you hang out here, idiot? And not acknowledge each other whatsoever, never have respect for each other, never like any of this stuff, right? Never see each other as teammates, none of this, again, until this last volume. And then at in the last final 11th hour, we have these characters like, oh, I will pass to you because together we can win this game. So yeah, thanks for popping in, Bazaar. I hope you enjoy it. I have some stuff that you may be interested in at the end of the stream, but good luck with work. Yeah, that's the thing, is like, Rukawa doesn't, at least from my perspective of reading it, having just finished it, Rukawa doesn't give a shit. Like, he thinks he's an idiot. He thinks he's like totally wasting everyone's time. And he's a hot-headed, like, not hot-headed, that's not the right word. He's a self-absorbed dumbass in that, like, yes, I'm so amazing and I'm the greatest basketball player or whatever, but which comes with being young and getting so much praise and whatever, right? But he doesn't give a shit about Sakuragi. There's no point there's no moment. He just sees him as a hassle to the team. The captain doesn't he's like, oh, he has so much potential. He's learning so quickly. And sure, maybe yes. I don't know. Again, I don't know how quickly people get good at basketball. Maybe it's slower than this, right? But it's a lot of, I don't know, you don't spend a lot of time with the team as a team outside of the games that they play. There's fights between individuals, and there's problems that get resolved, or characters like rejoining the team and stuff like that in the earlier parts, which is all fine, all good, all standard. But again, it spends 10, 15, 20 volumes on this, and this team still doesn't seem like a team. They're not cohesive. So when they win the thing at the end of the manga, you're like, wow, that's incredible that you actually decided for once in your entire life up until this point to not be completely self-obsessed assholes. And it's not really the upperclassmen. It is definitely Rukawa and Sakuragi. But also, like, I don't care about Akagi, who's the captain, which is maybe mean because he's a very prominent character. I just don't care about him, which is maybe why I didn't care about some of the other stuff going on. But I don't mind the other one, Mitsuo, and the other guy. I don't remember his name, but the other guy, the short one, who has the thing for this girl. No, this girl. But you know, I'm glad that you're enjoying my frustration in why in this, because again, it's not bad. It's a very good looking series for one. You can definitely tell that Inoue is passionate about basketball. You didn't even need to guess about that when regarding this series as well as Real. And I'm really interested in reading Real. Like, this hasn't turned me off of Inoue's sports manga. It hasn't turned me off of Inoue's manga. Like, I do enjoy his stuff. But even Vagabond, like, it took me a little while to connect to that. And that series, but I mean, I connected to that faster than this series because that's not that much longer than this one. And Sakuragi was fun. Like, he was an okay protagonist. I didn't have an issue with him, aside from the fact that there was so much focus. There was so much focus on, like, how incredible he was and how much potential he had. Not incredible he was, but how much potential he had to learn and to be better and greater. The rivalry between him and Rukawa, and this I mean, I don't know if I expected romance to happen, but, like, obviously his romantic interest in this girl. And he never seems to really be a part of all of the other stuff going on in the team. The team is doing stuff, like, they've got their stuff, their interpersonal drama and their own traumas and reasons why they've left basketball or they're still doing basketball or whatever. And that's fine. That's all good. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But then Sakuragi just, like, stands on the side like an idiot, like, oh, I'm the basketball man. And you're like, haha, funny jokes. But also, like, why are you here? I mean, I know why you're here, because you like the girl who asked you to join this team because her brother's on the team. But like, he doesn't fit in. He's meant to be this idiot, you know, comic relief insofar as like the surprising protagonist who has skills and who, you know, he seems like a doofus, but actually he's pretty good when he applies himself. And he just doesn't have two brain cells to rub together, right? But I don't know, guys. It's just annoying. Miyagi is that guy's name. Miyagi, the short one. I'm glad I finished it. I'm more glad that I didn't buy this series to read it. I'm very glad that I read it through my library, because this is a series, and I'm sure that like most people know, even especially people in the chat as well, that this is a series that gets hyped up a lot, which, I mean, every Shonen Jump series does, right? That's nothing new. And I like a lot of Jump stuff. Again, this isn't an issue of me just disliking Shonen. It's not an issue of me disliking sports series. It's not an issue of me disliking sports Shonen series, which is very evident, hopefully. Or even disliking, you know, older Jump stuff, because that's not the case either, right? I just don't think that the parts of this made a cohesive whole in my experience. I wasn't ever invested in the team, in the sports that they were playing, which is part of me just not caring about basketball, but also part of it not caring about these team members working together, because they literally never do. Or at least our protagonist doesn't with the rest of the team. And his rival character on the same team, less so. So it's just... Hello, Tay. Welcome to the live stream. I hope this is a little more cohesive coming into it than last week. I do have an update, though, from last week on that particular issue. But yeah, Slam Dunk didn't impress me. I'm happy that I read it. I'm happy that I was able to like tick the box and say, yep, it was fine. It was like a 6 out of 10, maybe a 5.5. Didn't love it. I don't think it's the worst thing ever made. Didn't impress me as a sports series. Didn't care about most of the characters. It felt like a huge prelude to something larger that obviously was not the case, because this is the end of it. It ended in a weird spot. And my feelings are really mixed on the handling of like every aspect of it. But if you love this series, again, these are all my opinions, right? But Tay, I'm reading your comments, so but if you love it, like, more power to you. I've always been someone who said, like, not every person can love every series. This is obviously a very popular series. A lot of people do love it, and I'm sure for very good reason. Anyway, it's hugely popular. I like his other works more, of what I've read. And I can understand why people enjoyed this, especially when Jump stuff was sort of the only stuff being licensed or getting notoriety. And the sports genre was still very niche, very risky. There wasn't a huge amount of titles that companies took the risk on, especially not like proper quote-unquote sports, which is a crude way of me saying, like, comparatively to something like Swan, which is about ballet, People don't really think of that in the same terms as like this, or it with the comparative like other sports series that was probably coming out at the time, which was Prince of Tennis, which is very different tonally, audience wise, etc. I just think that there's other better sports series that handle all of these elements more in a more nuanced and effective way, and I would absolutely read Haikyuu. I'd read Kuroko again before I'd read this. Like, I don't know what that says, but at least that had stupid superpowers and like a whole bunch of dumb kids doing dumb stuff. And this has a whole bunch of dumb kids doing dumb stuff, but they also played as a team in that one. Like, they all have their weird superpowers, but you cared about like their backstory, you cared about what was going on with their lives, and it was dumb and stupid. And when I watched the show, my sister and I laughed about literally everything about it, and your Peta as well. But that show made me cry, and it was so dumb and so ridiculous. This, I felt apathy, which is almost worse than hatred, right? Like, I just didn't care. I didn't care by the end of it. Congrats. Like, congrats on the achievement for the characters, not Inoue. I'm sure he's raking it in with regards to the series, but like, yay, you won the thing exactly like I thought you would. You didn't do it exactly with the way that I thought you would, but you did the thing, and it ended, and it wasn't really a satisfying ending insofar as like it was very open-ended, and so it's just, again, like open endings are fine. Haikyuu has an open ending, but I love that ending because it's satisfying as well as open-ended. It's satisfying as well as open-ended and hopeful, and also the characters aren't stuck in high school in that one. But yeah, again, if you love the series, more power to you. No, plenty of people dislike or hate or don't care about the series that I love, right? It's not really a testament to taste or quality. Well, it's a testament to taste, not a testament to quality. And so, Slam Dunk, yay! And I hope that makes sense. And I appreciate you saying that, Archangel Manga, because like, I don't know how many of you have read Slam Dunk. I don't know how many of you love Slam Dunk that are watching this either now when I'm streaming or in the future when you're watching this on playback. It's just, it wasn't for me. And if you're wanting a sports series that I do love, that I think handles a lot of these things better, Hikaru no Go, Chihaya Haikyuu, right? Like any of those. I wish I could recommend Ofuri or Big Wind Up. I'll recommend the show because that's also good. That taught me baseball. Like, I didn't learn anything from this aside from it was really frustrating that nothing happened that I cared about. Yeah, exactly. And Black Wind puts it perfectly in that, as I said, like, I'm not a sports person. I'm the furthest thing from an athlete, and especially team sports. Like, not for me, right? Just not for me. Never has been. But I am a huge fan, and well, first of all, I'm a big wimp and like super empathetic, so I get really emotionally attached to all of these fictional characters, which is probably not great, but I get all hit in the heart when I care about characters. And when I care about characters in series, regardless of the genre, regardless of the setting, regardless of the creator, if I care about your characters, I'm going to care about your story. I'm going to be invested. I'm going to want to keep reading. Slam Dunk, I was like, well, I put in the request for the last 5 volumes. Might as well read them. It wasn't like, oh, I need to know what happens, because I just didn't care. Yeah, so yeah, sorry. Starting with a bit of a downer, maybe, but probably not that unexpected considering my typical opinions when talking about this series. You know, I finished it, and no one can say that I just assumed and made a judgment on something that I haven't read. You can't say that I didn't try. I didn't give it an old college try or whatever that phrase is. I gave it every chance in the world, and yeah. I did see the April Fool's joke. The Papa Penguin looked funny. There was another one that also looked really good, and I was like, dang it. Oh, the cleaning one. I don't know why that appealed to me, but I was like, man, I would read that, right? Like, I'd read it. Sometimes the Japanese April Fool's jokes are like better. These companies, manga and anime companies, make better jokes of stuff than like the actual products that they put out. That's not a slight on Viz's stuff, because I read and love a lot of Viz's stuff, but sometimes ideas are just good. My favorite, and one of the people I follow on Twitter reminded me of it this year, but my favorite April Fool's joke that has come out of Japan over the last several years was when the Mushishi production company announced that, the team was like, we're gonna make a movie, and it was like a super action, like sci-fi version of Mushishi. Oh my gosh, I'm kind of cut that doesn't exist. And it had a funky art style. It looked a little bit like Kitaro, and I was like, man, modern Kitaro, which didn't exist at that point, but it reminded me of that, re-seeing that artwork. I like when April Fool's jokes are good-natured and fun, and we can all agree that nobody was hurt or offended or upset by things. But yeah. I also agree with this. I still need to read Volume 2 of Blue Period, but man, I loved that first volume, so I'm really looking forward to getting into it. And I feel like, I mean, in regards to Slam Dunk as well, like, I will always give a series a try, especially if it's very popular in Japan, especially if it's kind of been critically acclaimed, a lot of awards being won, and a lot of buzz around it. Blue Period, I was kind of I presumed that I'd like, but after reading the first volume, I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Like, I didn't know what to expect, but I knew that I'd probably like it, but I didn't love it, like, right off the bat. But then it hit, like, chapter 3 or something, and it was like, oh my god, no, this is great. I'm in it. Like, this is, I need more. And apparently volume 2 is even better. So, yeah, it's that emotional investment. It's that personal connection to the characters. And maybe with Slam Dunk, the issue is that I don't care enough about basketball, so I don't I don't relate to that aspect of their personality, right? But yeah. Universal, you can see. I think there's elements of that. I think obviously the human experience to a certain extent is universal. I think most people, regardless of which discipline they're in, understands a sense of achievement, understands disappointment and the idea or the feeling of failure or just missing out on something or feeling like your effort has gone to waste, or the elation, the surprise when something happens, or the satisfaction when all of your practice or training or whatever it is culminates to actual real results, whether that be a sports, whether that be arts, whether what painting or music as well. A lot of music, manga and anime has this aspect as well. And shonen to a interesting perspective uses this as well, like the whole idea of a training montage building up to laying that groundwork to then feel the satisfaction when that, you know, special move finally works, right? So I think you can become invested in everything or anything, but I do also think that there's some things that when you're deep into a culture or a community, it's so ingrained, and it's kind of like all of these in-jokes that from the outside are a little bit impenetrable. And so I do think that maybe that's an issue with Slam Dunk against. I don't know. I really don't know. So I don't know if I could sit through 2 minutes of inner monologue. See, that's the thing, like, even with shonen or shonen sports stuff that I enjoy, I'm always like, oh man, these monologuists, like these people having soliloquies over here about all of these crazy sports moves that I presume aren't normal for a 16-year-old to be able to do, because again, I'm not an athlete and don't have any perspective when it comes to sport. I always make fun of that. That was my sister and I would call Almane from Kuroko Wise Lord Almane, because literally after his game, like after he was introduced, every time he'd be in the show, he'd just be in the crowd, like explaining everything, just be like, oh my god. And it was hilarious. Like literally anything would happen and he would be on it. He'd tell you exactly what was going on, why it was important, who, like, oh my god. And we're like, oh, thank you, Wise Lord Almane, for like enlightening us plebs, because it was just so heavy-handed, and it was so rarely any other character. It was always him. I don't know. It just is funny. It just made me laugh. Also, that basketball, I don't know what the refs do in basketball. If anime and manga has anything to go by, nothing. They literally do nothing unless they need to do something for drama's sake to progress the plot. I will say that they were a bit more proactive in Slam Dunk than in Kuroko. But yeah, also this is something that I think is really important, and it's something I really appreciate in Chihaya Furu, for example. So if you haven't read or watched that series, one of the main characters, Taichi Mashima, who's one of the main leading characters, there's Chihaya, Taichi, and oh my gosh, Arata. Oh my god, what happened to my brain right there? And Arata and Chihaya are very, very well. Arata he's naturally gifted. He also has a lifetime of playing the game sport. His grandfather was a very accomplished player. So he has an advantage, and he introduced his passion to the game to Chihaya, who is the protagonist, right? And it's something that she absolutely fell in love with, she adores, and she's also has a natural, she has a very sensitive hearing, so she can just have this sense sometimes when what the sound of the word will be. So it's not premonition, right? But like it gives her that split second of advantage, and that's just something that she's inherently had. She has very good, quick reactions. She's a very athletic person, right? But also she has the advantage of that sensitive hearing. And both of them are both of those two characters are passionate. They love the sport. And although Chihaya came into it later than Arata, it's something that she's dedicated her life to, and she's grown better and better at it. And then you have Taichi, who initially doesn't take the sport that seriously, but because of being inspired by his friends, because of various things throughout their friendship, has grown more attached to the sport, wants to exceed, wants to be the best that he can be, alongside his rivalry, both in the sport and romantically, with Arata, and his personal connection to their school team and Chihaya and Arata, and this idea, and his complicated background with achievement, insofar as his parent or his family's expectations on him, most notably his mother, because he's very naturally gifted in every other way. Like, he's super smart. He was a phenomenal soccer player. He won scholarships to like super fancy schools, and he was planning to be a doctor, all these sorts of things. He has very high expectations, and he's always been a high achiever. But with Karata, he will never, or he perceives that he will never be as good as Arata or even Chihaya necessarily. He recognizes that he's not naturally gifted at the sport in the same way that his friends are. He's gifted in that he has incredible memorization skills. He's gifted insofar as that he's willing, once he understands that, to dedicate himself to that sport. But part of what makes Chihaya Furu as strong as it is Taichi's story. Like, he's not the protagonist, but he's just as important and just as crucial to the protagonist's storyline, and Arata's storyline, right? And they all work together. They're all rivals, but they're all friends, and this is how you do a rivalry, for one. But also, it's learning. We don't necessarily learn through Taichi. We learn through both Chihaya and Taichi initially. But when you watch or read the series, it's not that you don't root for Chihaya. You absolutely do. But there's a more complicated emotion when it comes to supporting or rooting for the male characters in this series, because they are both just as dedicated. They've both been working so hard, and Taichi almost more so. So it is that underdog element, right? And so when he finally is able to do things, it's so much more satisfying than if he was just like super awesome and, got it off the bat and was just perfect as with anything else. In the same way that Chihaya's teammates, Desuki and my brain is crazy, like gone today. I've been working. I've been up since 4:30, so apologies. But Kana-chan, who, if you've been on my channel for any extended period, you may recognize she's always my social media, or used to be all my social media icons. Both of those two aren't phenomenal. Like, they're not good at the sport in the same way that, their other team members are. But they work hard, and so when they achieve things, when they win a game for the first time, it's so much more effective. It's so much more effective. And again, you can apply that to anything. You can apply that to any sport. You can apply that to any discipline. When you see a character finally experience their hard work come to fruition, it's so much more satisfying. And to us, and I will give Slam Dunk credit to its credit. The last like minute or whatever it is in the game of this thing, it is that fruition of like, this is what we've been building up to. This is how this game is going to end. And wow, isn't that incredible? And I'm going to say, like, yeah, it was. It was nice and satisfying, and you know, it hit that note, but it felt like it was too little, too late with this series. With other series, especially when he's on a team with like a bunch of people who are just innately talented and super cool, right? Whereas with a lot of the other sports series, with series like Blue Period, with series like Beck, Mongolian Chop Squad, or you know, any of these music manga, any of these things where people are working hard towards a goal. One of the series that I'm going to talk about, right, like in a little bit, when they are able to finally get that thing, it's just way more of a happy ending and satisfactory ending. You just feel good. You feel like that warmth inside you hit. It's been 45 minutes. I've literally talked about one series, 2 books of one series. I'm sorry, guys. Pardon me, because I have a lot more to talk about. I'm gonna keep going. So we're done with that. We're done with me complaining and comparing a beloved series to things I think are better, right? The next series that I read, the next book that I read, is from a series that I do really love. I talked about this volume in my haul. I talked about a lot of these volumes in my haul that I posted just the other day. And that is volume 7 of Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, which is by Aida Iro. This is an ongoing supernatural mystery about a teenage girl who summons Hanako-san at her school in order to get Hanako-san to grant her wish. She wants a boyfriend, basically. Help her with her love life. But she accidentally summons, Hanako-san. But Hanako-san, instead of being a little girl ghost, is this boy ghost. Well, not this one, but is a boy ghost. And through shenanigans, through things, she ends up becoming his assistant. And he's in charge of making sure that all of the urban legends of the school are behaving themselves. And insofar with that, there's been another group, which this cover is related to, that have been messing around with the urban legends, making them go haywire, making bad things happen at the school. And so Hanako and friends have to stop it, right? And there's some mystery as to who Hanako-san or Hanako-kun is, why Nene, our protagonist, has gotten caught up in this situation, all of these different supernatural creatures. And obviously, I love yokai series, supernatural series. This is not a surprise, right? But man, this particular arc hurts, right? It hurts. Sasuke, who's this character here, there's like an earlier arc with him, and stuff happens, and then our other protagonist, what is his name? The middle school kid. He stuff, emotions, and yeah, a lot of stuff was going on. Yeah, I mean, what do I say aside from read the series? The suspense is great. There's a lot of action. The mystery is quite well paced in that you learn just enough to keep you hooked, but it's not like just never answering things either. You do get answers, and I'm being kind of vague because I don't want people who are coming into the series to be like know all of the stuff that we know by the 7th volume. But there's also great larger mysteries as to what's going on and why things are going and how things happened. And last volume introduced an element that was not surprising necessarily, but exciting. Maybe that's the wrong word as well. It was shocking, but made me anticipate the next volume. And we're not going to get answers for that for a little while, I don't think. But I'm just that much more invested. It keeps me on the edge of my seat compared to, again, not to compare series, but compared to another series that is highly beloved and played around with mysteries or tried to build anticipation to mysteries for far too long and then just didn't deliver, in my opinion, by the time those mysteries were answered. This totally different genre, so we shouldn't compare, but this was super good. I love the series a whole bunch, and I highly encourage you to try Toilet Bound Hanako-kun if you haven't. Don't be put off by the title. There's a reason it's called Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. Like, that's part of the urban legend. It's not a weird thing. It's just part of the urban legend, right? And the art's so cute. I love the artwork. Did I show you the artwork? Oh, look at him. Look at him. I just think it's stylish. Anyway, big fan of this one, which is nice because I just spent 45 minutes complaining about something else. But I also kind of feel sad because, like, I loved this one, but I spent 7 minutes on this one. I was so apathetic about this one, and I spent 45 minutes on it. So this is why controversy keeps generating interest. This is why brands and social media loves, and YouTube loves generating controversy and drama because it gets clicks. People are more interested, and people get more passionate about stuff that they dislike, right? And I try not to do that. I try to be positive, but I'm also going to criticize things if I don't like them. That's just how I am. I'm not going to lie and say that I love Slam Dunk, even though it might have more people going, oh, yes, that's correct. That is the correct opinion. I don't care about people who think one opinion is correct and everyone else is wrong. They are lame and need to learn how to grow up. But anyway, the next thing that I read was another series. I mean, this is also true. They're rarely even not just even in the toilet. They're rarely in the bathroom for most of the story. Like, he just hangs out wherever. Wherever he needs to be, he's there. He kind of drew the short straw in that his headquarters was the girls' bathroom. He could have been on the staircase. He could have been in the library. All the other urban legends get cool places. He was just like, yeah, cool. In the girls' bathroom. I mean, he might be interested because he is a teenage boy, but like also, and he has to clean up all the messes, make sure that all the other ones aren't dying or causing havoc. It's wouldn't be a job a lot of people would sign up to, gotta say. But the next volume that I read is another one that I talked in my whole video, so maybe more cohesive thoughts about it. in that video. I don't know. This is volume 12 of Snow White with the Red Hair. I love this series so much. Okay. I like a lot of Shoujo Beats titles that are coming out. I know, considering some of my other rants about different genres in previous live streams, that may not seem to be the case, but I do actually like a lot of the stuff that they put out. Yona, obviously. This one, Not Your Idol, which is on hiatus, but Kazuhiguru, which is basically on hiatus. But yes, as Tay has rightfully put in the chat, OT3 prime material, and this book fed me so well. Oh my goodness. If you like Shiroyuki and Zen, her romantic interest, and Obi, who is her bodyguard, as a throuple, because they totally are, then this book, well, the series in general, man, high quality. But, oh, okay, so in this book, I'm going to spoiler, but, like, I loved this book a lot, right? It had kind of everything. So we have Zen. His mother has arrived at the castle. She doesn't spend a lot of time in the castle. Have you never heard throuple? I thought that was like a normal thing. Anyway, sorry. But she's come back to the castle because she's going to crown Zen's older brother, Izana, the king. Like, she's like, well, your father's been dead, and I'm not really wanting to run the kingdom. You two are here anyway. Izana, you run everything. Like, you're old enough. You're definitely capable enough. Here you go, son. Like, they're just gonna do that whole thing. I love the brothers, like, how the brothers have gotten to this point in their relationship, especially comparatively to how their relationship was initially introduced. I'm glad I could teach you a word, Tay. But I just love how that's shown. I love how much Raj has grown as a character. There's a really beautifully, quietly intimate scene between Shiroyuki, Zen, Obi, and Mitsuhide and Kiki, which is just so beautifully done, and so soft and sweet, and really shows how much Zen appreciates the people around him. And that's something, like, I like this story for because it is about Shiroyuki, right? But it does give kind of equal weight to both her and Zen, and by extension Obi, because he's always with Shiroyuki anyway. So the throuple, the OT3 lives, right? I just love all the characters. And then it ends with suggestion that our characters, just having been together from the beginning of the series to now, 12 volumes, may have to permanently separate for at least a year-ish. We don't actually know, but they're going to be separated despite having been together and supporting each other this whole time. And there's just and then the cliffhanger made me yell because it's very suggestive. And it's not gonna be what it's suggesting, which is sex, by the way. It's not, but also, like, you know what you're doing, Saraka. You know what you're doing, Sensei. You know, and we all know. Like, this is not subtle. And I love it, right? Like, it's good. And Tay, as Tay said, is that yes, this is the reason that this is better quality, like OT3 material, is because all three of the members have a reciprocated investment in each other's lives and actually care about each other. It's not a jealousy thing between the two boys over the girl. I mean, they definitely are like, what's the word? They like pick at each other, right? They aggravate each other. But at the same time, you know, they deeply care about each other. And you're like, ooh. And she deeply cares about both of them. And so they will all three together live happily ever after. I will stand for nothing but that, right? Like, it's super good. It doesn't just have, it doesn't have this like romantic rival just as a jealous third wheel who's like, oh, I'm gonna break up the relationship, because he's also like invested in them being together. He cares about them because in their relationship, because he cares about them both individually and as a couple, which is why they're a throuple. Is why they just are, right? Like, and I'm not just delusional. I think most people who read this would agree that these characters are definitely in love, and there's I like it. If we're gonna say that there's like a third wheel romantic rival, not even, but like a third wheel character, it'd be Raj, but he's not really he's not a romantic rival, and I just really like their friendship that he has now with Shiroyuki. He's grown so much, and like there might be heart thuds there, but like he also knows and respects her decision. Zen, he just doesn't want to get it. Like, he knows that he doesn't have a chance, so he's not even going to start shit. And also, he values his actual friendship with Shiroyuki as well. It's just good. It's just good, and I love it. And he's not a threat, but he is lovable. And yes, if Obid is just like given a girlfriend at the end of the series, or like goes on a quest, goes on a journey to find himself, I will be annoyed. I will be annoyed and aggravated, because I don't think that like an actual polygamous relationship will be the end game for this series, right? But I want Shiroyuki and Zen to live happily ever after, and then also Obi is there with them, because duh, he's a guard and her personal bodyguard, so of course of course he's gonna stay with them. He has to. He's a prince, and she's like his partner who he's already been assigned to, so of course he's gonna just live with them and live happily ever after with them. And yeah, exactly. Rin, the Raj and Taejun development courses are very similar, and that's also someone who I like I relate to with like this personal character development and growing so much as a person over the course of the series, especially comparatively to where they started out. Oh my god, those two, both of them, they just, thank goodness they grew up, and I love them for that. I love that for them, right? Like, it's so good. It's so good, and everyone should go read Snow White with the Red Hair, not just because of the potential love throuple, like couple with three people, but also because it's really good. Both of the main romantic pair get their time to be explored. Both of their goals are respected. They're very communicative. They're both very respectful of each other's achievements and supportive. And it's just overall really good. It's really, really good. And also romantic as hell. Like, it actually is. There's one, I don't know if it was last volume or the volume before, where Zen goes to see Shiroyuki at the snow town or wherever she is, that country that she sent to find the disease that's going on. And they lie down in the library and the stars are out. I'm like, oh my god, that's so romantic. What the heck? There's a lot of those kind of like, dang girl. Damn, this is, it just hits you. It's, I don't know, maybe I'm a sucker, but like there's just some breathtakingly like just romantic scenes like, love is real. True love is real. Like, I don't know. It just is very satisfying. It's very satisfying in that regard. Rin, do we even need fanfic when the mangaka gives us so much premium content in the source material as it is? But yes, it doesn't have to be confirmed, explicitly confirmed, but I will believe. Please, Sensei. All I want is for those three to live happily ever after together. Even if it's just the two are married and then one just also lives with them and hangs out. And it's like, oh, hey, guys, we're just a family now. We're not even going to question it because this is the way it's always been. So, yeah. Snow White with Red Hair. Great series. Love it to bits. I think 24 of 25 just came out in Japanese. 24 because the mangaka just posted the cover on her Twitter and it is what's his name? Ryo. And I was like, man, Ryo, are you a little bit older now? Because you look a little bit different and you look a little bit more mature. And I'm not, that's good for you, kid. I'm happy for you. Right now you're like 12 or something. And if you're 14 and you finally hit that growth spurt, good on you. But yeah, Snow White with Red Hair. Good stuff. Next is debut. Tay, thank you. Oh, I mean, we know where my fan fiction reading has been and will continue to be for the foreseeable future. But it is good to know that there are people out there fighting the good fight and creating the content that we all want. But so next volume was a debut. This is from Yen Press. Yes, Yen Press. I don't know. I think this is an ongoing series, historical romance. And it was all right. I wasn't like, I think there's potential here. I didn't like absolutely adore it, but I also do like the setting. I'm a sucker for historical fiction anyway. We know this. This shouldn't be a surprise. Welcome to Simply G, the YouTube channel. Like, shouldn't surprise anyone. But this is Golden Japanesque, a splendid Yokohama romance by Kaho Miyasaka. And this is about a teenage girl in the late Meiji period, which is turn of the 20th century, right? Who is biracial. Her father was some shade of Westerner, right? Presumably Dutch, maybe American, maybe English. We don't know. Doesn't really matter. But because of this, she has bright blue eyes, golden hair, and so she's been ostracized because of that. A lot of the neighborhood people in her earlier childhood called her a monster and horrific and all sorts of things. On top of that, they called her mother like a whore, selling out on her countrymen for having a mixed race child. And so her mother has always hidden her how she looks. She makes her dye her hair and like cover her eyes or whatever, just to stop drawing attention to them and to save her own reputation, which is shitty. Like, that's terrible, but also kind of understandable. I don't know. I just feel that that's bad parenting. But we wouldn't have a story if this wasn't the case. And so one day she's like accompanies her mother on to a house, like a fancy, rich person's house, Western style house, for work or something. And she's asked by the head maid to give a book to the young master of the household. So she goes to school, even though she can't read the character name, like in the kanji in his name. So she doesn't even know his name. And she ends up running into this guy who helps her up and stuff, but they keep kind of running into each other, and keeps trying to scare her, or like upset her, annoy her, like putting bugs and frogs and stuff on her, and she doesn't react because she's been taught that if she reacts, it just encourages people, it gives them the reaction that they want, obviously. So he's kind of keeps trying to up the ante to upset her, basically, because he's this idiot 15-year-old who thinks that aggravating girls is a personality trait and like super cool, and that's how you make friends. I don't know what is wrong with, teenagers in general, but teenage boys are a weird breed, man. I don't. Anyway, I've known many throughout my life, and they're all I'm glad they typically grow out of that. Fingers crossed they grow out of that. But so anyway, he finds out that she's dyeing her hair, and he calls her Little Mermaid. And so he's just like captivated by her, thinks she's beautiful, or at least interesting, and that she should be proud of how she looks and all sorts of things. So it's that like, I find the beauty in you, and I'm not sure if I'm sold on this, but I'll give it another volume. I think also the art style is like, I don't know, in my opinion, pretty typical shoujo. It's not like standout beautiful or anything like that. It's fine. It works. I'm more interested in how her relationship stuff goes with her mother, because obviously this romance is going to happen between these two, right? Like it's basically a Cinderella story where she's this girl from low means who has always been ostracized and treated badly her whole life, and then Prince Charming, who's a little bit of a dick, but like ultimately he's a good person, and he sees her wonderful qualities and will help her, blossom into the amazing person that she is. And all of those people who made fun of her, including her evil family, will rue the day that they tried to, be mean to her or whatever. She'll get her revenge by marrying rich, basically, which is the moral of Cinderella, right? Like, get revenge by marrying rich. Be a good person, get revenge, and marry rich. That's a cynical take, but I'm sticking with it. And that's what this is, right? It's Japanese, and it's using Little Mermaid allegory, but it's Cinderella for the most part. Cinderella with like a dash of Japanese societal racism, or xenophobia, maybe. As I said, it's not terrible. It's not like, I'm not saying go out and absolutely buy this, But if you like period romance, if you like shoujo manga, if you, I don't know, what else? If you like the Meiji era, maybe give it a look. But you might want to wait until more volumes are out, because this was a fine first volume. I'd be interested to see what later volumes do to make it really like interesting, if it ever comes to that, right? I don't know. Maybe not. So that was that. Oh my gosh. What was that? Golden Japanesque. A splendid Yokohama romance. The romance isn't super splendid. I don't really care much about either of these characters, but it's only one volume. We'll see where it goes from here. Next is a continuation of a series that I love, and this I alluded to as well when going on that big rant about passion and seeing people achieve goals after working hard. And that is volume 4 of Magus of the Library by Mitsu Izumi. Oh my goodness, I love this series so much. If you're not reading this and you're a fan of fantasy and I don't know, I just love everything about this series. It's the story of a young teenage boy, well, initially a young boy, like a 6-year-old, who, because of how he looks, he's been ostracized his whole life. He's again biracial, but is basically like half elf, because this is a fantasy world. And prior to the story starting, there was generations of war between the various races, right? And in doing so, the elves, which is not what they're called, but the elves have either all died or all like secluded themselves away. They're not dealing with that shit anymore. They're like, we were treated like slaves and genocided. We're not gonna deal with humans anymore, or any of the other races. Archangel Manga, I am going to address this particular comment momentarily. But yes, this is the manga that says, based on Kafna of the Wind by Sophie Schwim, and translated by Hiroto Hamada, right? And you go, that sounds, well, you read the first volume and you're like, dang, this is good. Holy shit. This is based off a book. Let me see if I can buy that book. I'm interested. It's been, like, it sounds like it's been written by a European, so hopefully it's in English. I want to see if I can read it, because the world building in this is great. It's just like overall really interesting and lovely, and it's about the love of books, and it's about librarians and this like interesting magical Middle Eastern setting, and there's dinosaurs, and there's like little fairy people and all sorts of things, and there's ideas of fate, and you're like, man, this is a cool book. Why haven't I ever heard of this? This sounds really interesting. That's cool that they made this into a manga, and then you look it up and it doesn't exist. You're like, what the hell? What is this? So this is the premise that yes, this is this manga, but in a cool twist of fate, we discover that the writer of this story, Kafna of the Wind, it's meta. It's super meta in that Sophie Schwim exists in this manga as a character, and this whole story is her interpretation, her writing and experience of Theo Fumis, who's our main character, his story from the perspective of somebody like looking back on what happened, writing the story after the fact. So it's not a real book, but it is a real book so this is like if I don't know, like some sort of wormhole opened from an alternate dimension where this story happened, right? And this could be like a biography of a hero who saved the day and his life story. And it just didn't happen here because we don't have magic and stuff. It's so cool. And when she was introduced, I was like, ah! It was so cool. And the end of this book. So that happened like a partially way through this particular book. Theo has spoilers, but he's qualified. Well, it happened at the end of the third book, so it's not really spoilers. He sat the CAFNA exam, passed, which that's not that surprising, right? Like, we wouldn't have a story if he just failed and didn't become this librarian. But now he's traveled to this main city, and is now training to become, CAFNA. And so it's introducing all of these new recruits, all the people who qualified, who passed the test. And there's like 25 new, and I'm like, oh my gosh, so many characters. And it's really cool, and I love it. Lots of female characters, which is really cool and awesome to see. Notably because CAFNA is typically a role taken by women, because again, societal sexism means they can't really get that great jobs in other areas. So like the best of the best work hard to become CAFNA. So he's one of the very rare few male CAFNA around. Coincidentally, his year, as you can see on this cover, he's actually one of 3 boys who have gotten to this point that qualified, but all the other rest of the class are women, girls, and of various ages as well, from like 12 all the way to 35. So they're not really like any set restrictions on who can apply or when you can apply. It's a really cool idea. I like it a lot. But okay, so in the first book, which is basically like a prequel, or the prologue to the story, right? It's the prologue to the story. That's what it's set like 7-8 years before the main story, and how Theo was like introduced to this world and meets this person, the CAFNA who inspired him to become a CAFNA himself. And so in this book, now he's finally made it. Now he's like, I'm following in your footsteps. I want to see you. And he does. And he wants to return a book that they lent him, and stuff happens. But, oh my God. The ending made me yell in real life. I read it, I was like, oh, like I yelled, and I almost threw my phone because I was just like, I don't know. I'm upset, like a good upset. I'm not upset. Like it didn't suddenly turn like super racist or something. No, it's plot development, like tension and upset and like flipping the table over, and like, oh my god, you're so. And I know that I'm not the only one, because Ray, my good friend, find her on Whimsical Pictures, she read this like yesterday or the day before, and she in the DMs was like, she's like, I almost yelled in the Starbucks that I was reading this in. What the fuck? And I was like, I understand, because I actually did yell, but I was lucky in that I was in my bedroom and no one could judge me. So yeah, okay, this is super good. I mean, it was already super good, and I would highly recommend everyone to read this, especially if you like fantasy, especially if you like the idea of what Magi kind of tried to do, but was like, that was stupid at volume 20, like I was. And it's just kind of beautiful. It has a sensibility of like, or the art has a thoughtfulness in it in the same way that like Kaoru Mori does her stuff, but with the expressiveness of like the characters don't look like Mori characters necessarily, but the settings do. Like if Kaoru Mori was sent to a Middle Eastern fantasy world, she would draw as much beautiful things as these. And I just love I love the fact that there's dinosaurs and dragons and stuff. I just love this series so much. Where is it? Dinosaur. I love it. Like, I literally just, it's so creative and cool and interesting and beautiful. And everyone go read this. Everyone go read it. It's just, everyone go read it. But yeah, so that's all the like quote unquote normal manga that I read. I do have one BL series, couple volumes from one BL series that I also read, which was okay. So I've had 2 out of 3 of these volumes for a little while, and just went unread because I am bad. Yes, Zach, go read Magus of the Library. It's only on volume 4. They're chunky books as well. Like, they're super thick. Compare the pair, right? Compare the pair. They're super good value for money and also just generally wonderful. But anyway, BL. So I read Given volumes 3 to 5. So yesterday, well, I got this volume, and then I was like, I should actually read this, well, I mean, I've been meaning to read it for weeks, but once I finally got 5, I was like, okay, I'm going to finally just sit down and read all the rest of the volumes that I need to. But then also yesterday, I said to my sister, because if you don't know, a lot of the time, the anime that I watch, I'll watch it with my sister, so we'll watch stuff together. We stream, we watched lots and lots of stuff together over the years. We finished Jujutsu Kaisen, like the last episode of that came out, and then we started, well, I had already seen 2 episodes, but I restarted Skate the Infinity with her, so we're at episode 8. I know 12 comes out tonight, / has come out. So we're going to watch the last 4 tomorrow. But so we finished something, and I don't remember what it was, but I'm like, Em, do you want to watch the Given movie? Because we've seen the show, right? And it's on Crunchyroll to stream. We should watch it. And she's like, yes, okay, sure. And it's like, it's only an hour long, which seems to be pretty typical for BL movies. So it's not a huge time investment. And we watched it, and it was good. And yeah, I mean, I love the show. The movie focuses on the university student couple of this band. Well, not couple, but the university student members of this band. So if you haven't seen Given, obviously it's BL about, oh my gosh, these two characters who are in high school who meet and they're in a band together. It's about music and grief and all sorts of things, new love and moving past sadness and whatever. But the movie is focused on these two, right? This guy is the drummer, and he has like this weird toxic on again off again relationship with this professional violinist who he's known forever. He's just infatuated with him, but it's like a really troubled relationship, and they both kind of are very unhealthy for each other, but also really care about each other. And for a long time, they were stuck in this, what's the word? Toxically dependent relationship. And then this guy, he kind of was smitten at first sight by this guy, but he knows that like he kind of doesn't have a chance, and so he's been harboring feelings for him for ages, like a year or 2 years or something. I don't know. Anyway, so the movie is about them, the university students, and the development of their relationship, because man, drama, and it was so good. And that's what so I watched that movie, and then I followed that movie up with The Little Norse Prince, which that's an experience, man. The 60s were a time. They were a time, and that's a very odd movie. Not very good. It's just, we make too much fun of things that are like people care about, but I don't care. But so today I was like, I'm actually going to finish this, and this basically adapts, or at least the university, like the student storylines, the older characters' storylines, is what is adapted into this film. And this volume ends right where the movie ends. So like I knew that people had kind of freaked out, or I was like, oh my gosh, I need the next volume when this one came out and had read it, because it's like big character. Oh my gosh, they're finally figuring out relationship stuff. And it's cathartic again. It's payoff for what's been building up. But man, oh man, these guys. The manga, it's a very close adaptation. And I knew that the film, obviously only being an hour, couldn't fit everything in. So there is other scenes in here. In the manga, there is also like additional content in relationship to the high school characters, because they're very much sidelined, understandably, because it's a very focused film. It's got to be, if you're trying to fit everything into 60 minutes. But at the end, like in the credits, there's still shots of like certain things that aren't in the movie. And I was like, I wonder if those are all like scenes, panels from the manga that they had to skim over because obviously we don't have enough time. I wonder if that's what the case is. And I was right. G knows what she's talking about sometimes. You might not agree with it, but in this instance, she was correct. But yeah, Given is wonderful. I love the series a lot. Gets a little bit risque in this volume. We have some very emotionally distraught relations. Bit more of a hint of eroticism. You don't see anything. Nothing's happening on page, but like there's implication of sex, of lots of like different kinds of sex as well. Insofar as like we got gay sex implied, we got het sex implied, we got, well, that's about it. And we have aggressive hand holding, which can be very erotic depending on who's doing that. It's good. Really happy to have finally caught up, and I'll be waiting for volume 6 like the rest of us schlubs. And having finished quote unquote this story arc, storyline with this volume, and resolved the major drama, for now at least, in this volume. I do know that it's ongoing. I do know that volume 6 is out. Volume 7 is also going to be out at some point. I don't know how much longer the series is going to go, but I love it, so I'm happy to keep reading for as long as they want to keep, as long as Natsuki Kizu wants to keep writing it, I will keep buying it and reading it and loving it. And it's definitely one of those series that kind of transcends the BL label, at least as to what people think BL is. I feel like this is a series that, I said it before, and I said it in my pickups video the other day, that I feel like with not even any tweaking or very minimal tweaks, but really no tweaking, you could actually probably fit this into Viz's like actual catalog, or maybe more appropriate for like 7Cs or something. But I don't think that this necessarily, you could market this outside of the Sublime, like Viz's BL label, because it is a Sublime release, right? But I feel like this would appeal to non-BL fans, and similarly to The Night Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window, which is a digital-only Sublime title and super duper good, and also not like negative explicit insofar as sexual stuff. But dang, if it ain't erotic in weird ways. I love that series a lot. Maybe because ghosts, I don't know. But yeah, Given is great, and I don't really need to convince people to read it or watch it, because it's, a lot of people love it. If you're not a fan of BL, then, you know, that's your decision. But I do think it's got a lot to offer. I do think it's quite an emotionally poignant series and very hopeful. Also, holy shit, okay, I kind of forgot how savage Mafuyu is. Damn, that kid. I love him. I'm sorry, Tay, that I'm sorry that you're gonna miss out on me losing my mind in 2 minutes. Good luck at the post office. But yeah, so Mafuyu, man, they make a note in one of the like extras at the back of the book that he's a cat whose appearance belies his nature, right? Which is a joke, because in Japanese, a neko is a bottom, right? Like someone who's in the bottoming position in a relationship. And it's not this volume, it's one of the other ones. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they straight up just said he was a power bottom, and that's amazing. Also, in this volume, he's like, he has no problem killing a cockroach. And he's like, man, you don't really have a problem killing bugs. And he's like, yeah, I kill them all the time, because if I don't, my dog will eat them, and then my dog will try to lick into my mouth. And I'm like, man, that is truth right there. Anyone who has a dog will understand the gross shit that they will eat, and then be like, oh, let me kiss you on your face. I'm like, don't kiss me on my face, dog. Do not. You were just eating the grossest stuff, and your breath stinks, and your soup, oh my god, no. Germs. So, Zach, that is a very good question. The Night Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window is about a young man, I'm in his 20s, who can see spirits. Can you tell that I have an interest already? But he can tell like vibes, right? He can tell bad energy, see spirits, stuff like that. Always has been, kind of doesn't know how to avoid that or fix that. It's just something he's suffered with throughout his life. But one day, one day he meets a guy who is a spiritualist. He has the power to exorcise spirits, but he doesn't actually like have super strong powers. He's like, hey, you're like naturally an amplifier for all of this bad energy and all these spirits and stuff. How about you become my assistant? I'll get rid of all of the bad stuff and we'll see if we can try and fix you also, maybe. And he's like, well, I don't really know who you are or anything, but all right, like, sure. He kind of gets roped into it, as is always the case in these things. So basically they go on like they different cases where there's bad energy or whatever, and he, so this is where like it's kind of erotic but without any like explicitness, is where so the other guy uses his soul or like his energy to penetrate through the other guy to like amplify his powers to then exorcise the bad spirits. But in saying that, it's like a really interesting conversation about consent. Like it's really heavy on like this discussion of equality and relationships, and you know, discussing personal boundaries and things without these characters even having like, well, I'm not going to say that I don't have any romantic interest in each other, but like that's so far that's not really the point, and it's never really been something that's been focused on a lot. Also, there's like this whole thing going on. There's one girl who's able to, through the power of her words, is able to implant subliminal messages into people's minds to then propagate negative spirits and aura and whatever energy. And so that shit's going on, and they're trying to figure out how to stop that, because that's causing havoc and like creating a lot of bad stuff going on. It's 6 or 7 volumes currently in English. It might be even more. I haven't read it for a little while. And it's honestly one of those series that I feel like I don't know why Sublime didn't put it in print. Like I honestly don't, especially because the creator is quite well known and prolific in Japan. It just feels like it could have been or done really well in print. I don't think it's one that, but it's also not like, it's not explicit. There's no kissing in it. It's not a kissing book. It's got a lot of plot to it, which is not unusual for BL. Like that's absolutely not a slant or slight to other general BL, but it's also like not about like, do these characters have a romance? Is that even the point? And that might not appeal to Western BL readers who are like, I want to see boys kiss, and that's all I want. Which, I mean, the Japanese fans aren't much different, but typically a lot of certain subsets of fans definitely are more interested in some BL elements than others. Whereas I'm like, please give me all of the interesting storylines. I want to know plot aside from maybe they'll kiss. Like, I don't, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but what's gonna happen with the Yakuza? What's gonna happen with it? Like, this is why I enjoy a lot of stuff that's has a very plot focused versus just, oh, they're a sweet couple. They got together in the end, confessed their love, and now they live happily ever after. So yeah, that's what The Night Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window is about. It's very, I feel like you could definitely sell that as not a BL. I feel like people could go into that and be somewhat oblivious, but be like, no, it's just a story about, you know, these Ghostbusters, right? Like, but then that might cause like arguments, like, no, oh my gosh, crazy fangirls just want to see the gay and everything. It's like, nah. I mean, it kind of was written for them, in their magazines directly for them. So pros and cons to both, but it is a good series, and digital only from Sublime. But finally, so for those of you who put up with me last week, where I didn't read anything. Did I read even one thing? Oh, yes, I did. I read some BL, right? And they were good. And then I went on a tangent about the fan fiction that has lived in my mind rent-free for a decade. And then Tay, who sadly has left, just found it. She found it. She sent it to me. And oh my God, first of all, I was tweeting about it, and I will continue to tweet about it because I'm going to be reading that. Like, there's so much more going on than I remembered. First of all, it is 460,000 plus words. It is so long. It is 52 chapters at over 465,000 words. Which is just incredible. Like, it's called Haunted. And if you weren't here last time, it's a crossover fan fiction between my beloved one of my favorite manga, Natsume's Book of Friends, and Harry Potter, wherein the two are related. They share the same grandmother, and Natsume, or Takashi, at 32 years old, discovers his orphaned and generally abandoned cousin? Yeah, I guess cousin. British cousin Harry Potter, who can see, who he discovers can see also, like, spirits, yokai, ghosts, whatever you want to call them. And so thus adopts him, and, like, guys, it's so, And the thing is, and I said it last week, it's not bad insofar as, like, it's written, like, perfectly, perfect spelling, grammar, etc. The writing itself is a bit stilted and very, like, hard to get through insofar as, like, it's over-explaining. But I also think that's a testament to the writer, the author's typical readers being Harry Potter fans versus Natsume's Book of Friends fans. So there's, like, a lot of exposition, and there's a lot of, like, having to rewrite and change details to make this world work and fit together, which I appreciate. Like, it's a lot of hard work, but it's the gift that keeps on giving. I have so out of these 52 chapters, 51 plus a prologue, and I don't know if it's completed because I haven't risked going into it that deeply yet. I hope that it's finished and it has an epilogue. Like, I hope that this is a finished work, with 49 chapters, a prologue, and an epilogue. If it's not, if it's abandoned, I'm gonna cry. But I might not make it that far because it is so long, so much to read, and I don't know how far I got into it when I originally read it at, like, 18 or 19, you know, when I first found it, because my brain was hurting so much that I think I just, like, dipped at chapter 5 or maybe 10. I don't remember. I got through a decent chunk of it, but 100,000 words dedication because I was just so bizarrely fascinated. We'll find out. We will find out because I am committed to keep reading this. But holy moly, guys. Holy moly. First of all, in beautiful fanfiction.net 2011 fashion, we have the world's longest author note about how the writer found Natsume's Book of Friends, how they're a huge Harry Potter fan, how they discovered this and why this idea came to them, and how there's no fan fiction for this idea, and there's no crossovers, even though in that period and even now, like, to be honest, Hogwarts AUs and stuff are hugely popular because as terrible as JKR is and transphobic and is the worst, her world has like spawned outside of her control and has been so influential and impactful in a lot of people's, my generation and whatever, our formative pop culture, and it's just like a cool world to live in because it's kind of not quite generic fantasy. It coexists with modern day, so there's like a lot of potential there, but it's just a shame that the creator is a shitty person who uses her power for evil. But anyway, we're not going to get into JKR being the worst, right? We don't need to extrapolate on that. Everybody knows that. But so the prologue, but then so this author note is like, okay, also I've included some Japanese words. I don't know any Japanese. I've never taken any Japanese. I'm not Japanese. But I think it'll lend itself to the authenticism. And I'm like, oh my God, yes. Oh my God, I'm waiting for it. Please put in terrible Japanese. Please put in terrible romanji of like, it's like if every one of these translation purist fanboys who wants everyone to keep saying like Nakama versus friends in subtitles, that attitude was put into a fanfic. It's so, I mean, it's not good, but like amazing. So we start, and all of these like chapters have fucking dates and timestamps and shit because we're jumping around in the timeline. But the prologue is like, okay, first of all, the Dursleys, they were actually not that bad. They're actually like maybe okay people. They weren't abusive. They gave Harry a whole room and like a nightlight. He was just a normal kid. They looked after him. He's just a crazy person. He didn't want to be in his room. He chose to be under the stairs because he keeps seeing monsters and stuff. And he got so afraid he would just always run into the cupboard under the stairs. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of reimagining there that's happening. That sure is a choice. So, first of all, the Dursleys, it's Harry with the problem. They're like, we can't even deal with him. He's just wanting to live in this tiny foot closet under the stairs, right? Even though we were totally not wonderful, but we were just normal parents who provided a bedroom and a, normal stuff. But even at 2 years old, Harry was like, nah. Well, not nah. He was just afraid. He would see monsters, he'd see spirits, and then he'd get all scared and run away and hide and cry and open the door via magic, which you can't do at 2 because I know the Harry Potter lore. Magic comes in at 5-ish, 4 or 5 years old, so he's too young for that. But we'll keep going. That's the least of the problems. And so yeah, the Dursleys now are okay people. Oh, and they also like talk to each other like no human talks to another human. They're like, oh yes, it sure is. Like, I don't know why he keeps wanting to go into that bloody cupboard. And like, oh well, I sure hope he doesn't wake Duddykins. I'm like, that's all fine. Like, that's stilted, but it's fine. But it's like, okay, well, I guess good night, my dear Petunia, because I have work that tomorrow, and if I'm not on my game, then I might be out of a job. I'm like, what do you normally, is this how you talk to your partner at like 2 a.m.? Or like midnight when there's a screaming, crying 2-year-old running down your street? You're like, oh well, he's just, I don't know what to do with him. Let's not check on him. Let's not like do any of this stuff. We're just gonna complain about it in bed. So maybe they are abusive still. Not intentional from the author, but maybe. Oh, and I have a meeting, so I'm just going to go to sleep. Oh, good night, darling. It was, I laughed, and then so that ended, and then it's introducing the Natsume world, right? And so he's fighting this big yokai, well, demon, because of stuff, right? And then we find out it was like a job given, or he was asked by another yokai to get rid of this other yokai who's dangerous and who he like got in a big fight with. He had been pinned down with like giant claws and he's about to get eaten and all this stuff. Man, and I don't know, I really remember how he escaped. He sealed it away in a jar or something in a very notary way. Which is fine. He's 32 now. It's been 16 years since the main series, or the original series. So, sure, maybe he knows how to seal things in pots. And Yonko just shows up, is like, hey, Natsume, I thought he's lying on the ground. He's, like, been beat up by this yokai, and he has, which we find later, like, all of these puncture wounds, and he's bleeding. And he's, like, quite injured. And Yonko's like, Natsume, what are you doing lying on the grass? So I thought we were trying to look for this devilish yokai. And he's like, Yonko, I actually dealt with that issue. You were just drinking. And I was like, oh my god, what is... I mean, yes, that is the joke, right? Is that Nyanko's always out drinking and, like, being a layabout and a useless bodyguard, but he is actually a good bodyguard. He doesn't want Natsume to die. He's not totally inept. And so yeah, so this yokai who asked Natsume to get rid of this other yokai, it's like, oh yeah, also I have a message from Reiko, your grandmother. And he's like, well, she's dead, so you don't need to like tell me this message. You don't have to, keep her promise or whatever. And she's like, oh yeah, I do, because it was only like, I don't know, 20 years ago when she gave me this message. Even though yokai don't really have an understanding of time, but it's fine. And he's like, what? She was dead way before that. She died at 19 or something when my father was 1 year old. And I was like, also, first of all, and this is, I'm not going to blame the author for this because this is deep lore. It's not deep lore, but you have to actually know the series well to know this. But Reiko Natsume is Takashi's mother's mother. So the Natsume line name is through his mother's side, not his father's. So his dad has nothing to do, but I'm not going to blame the fan fiction writer for that. That's just me being a nitpicker and too much of a fan. But so he's like, wait a minute, what do you mean my grandmother gave you a message 20 years? She's been dead. And then he's like, well, here you go. And he gave him some kind of weird message, some little bit of a prophecy or something. And then so he's like, okay, I'm going to do the research, right? Everyone told me my grandma died at like 21 or 19 or something. She had my father. She gave birth to his son. And then 1 year afterwards, she died in a gas explosion. And so she's just been dead ever since. And so he does all the deep lore research, and he discovers that there's like all of these. So he finds out that his grandmother didn't die. She faked her death, which I talked about last time, which this is something that I remember, but she faked her death in a gas explosion, moved to the UK, spent like 20 years there or something, and then got married and had another kid who, oh my God. And then when that son turned 1 year old, she died in a mysterious gas explosion. And again, I don't know why she would fake her. Well, we don't know if she faked her death this time, but that would be some weird karma if that was how she actually died. She didn't. They're gonna reveal that she's alive, and that's not a surprise. But her son was James Jiro Potter, and I just love the idea that his name, he has a Japanese name as well as an English name. It just, brilliant. Can you imagine if in like real life Harry Potter's father's middle name was Jiro? I love it. I love it so much. But yeah, he like finds all of these. He finds out that there's like a bank account with all this money in it for him and all of these stocks. His grandmother left him all of these stocks, I guess an Apple or something. And so now he's just immeasurably wealthy. And I was like, who does that remind me of? Because that obviously is exactly what happened to Harry, right? And I think it's meant to be like, oh yes, all of that money he got from Gringotts was actually her money. And he inherited from his parents who inherited it via her. I don't know, man. It's just So Natsume is now in like just beyond wealthy. And he's still training. He's still in university, like he's taking classes for something. At 32, with the implication that he's been doing this like since he graduated high school. He's just been doing like volunteer work at some kind of community center and then takes classes part-time because he can't really afford university. So how slow of a student are you? Like, I was a slow student. I'm not going to say that I'm the best student around, but even I was able to finish a single degree. And I know people who do part-time for their degree their whole time for a 4-year degree, and it takes them like maybe 6-7 years. It's been not 16. It's been 14 years. Why why did it take so long? I know because you can't afford it, but like, it's anyway, he doesn't have to worry about that because he's got all of the squajillions of dollars, and he's like, oh, Toko-san, his adoptive mother, who he still calls Toko-san, which I understand, right? But they have a conversation, and that's when the Japanese comes out, and oh my god, there's a untranslated nani, and I loved it. Oh, it's like, oh, because he goes home because he still lives with his foster parents, and is like, I've discovered that my grandmother left me all of this money, and I'm super wealthy. And she's like, oh, wow, we didn't know anything about that. And he's like, yeah, well, apparently she was alive, and, you know, she left me all this money. She didn't die until recently. And she's like, Nani? I'm like, oh, yes, yes. And then she's like, well, sweetheart, don't try to give us money because you want to pay us back. We don't want your money. That's your money. And I'm like, well, I guess so, in an inheritance sense. But also, like, it's not his money. He didn't do anything to make that money. He's just joining the upper class now. But it's all right. He's a good hometown boy. He's not gonna let all those riches get to his head. He's gonna donate it all. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet. But he's like, no, I don't. I know you're not gonna accept money from me, so that's why I'm gonna give you the money that Reiko left for you, because she made sure that you have all your own stocks and your own bank account full of money. And I was like, oh my god, Reiko just rolling in it. Where did she get all this money? She was just a housewife. Maybe she could see the future, I guess. And then there's this whole prophecy, and it's really clunkily written. It's about, I guess, two destined. Oh, I don't even remember. Where is my thread about this? I need to. So much has happened, and it's only 2 chapters, right? It's only been 2 chapters plus a prologue, and prophecy. And Yonko Sensei like keeps trying to stop him from looking into his grandmother's fake death because he's all afraid that this prophecy is going to come true. I will read you the prophecy. Tell me if this sounds natural. 2 sons born of 2 worlds living without the gift of sight. The first shall be abandoned on a dark night filled with superstition. The second shall be torn from his family 3 times by death. A book divided by language, land, and time. 2 families bound by blood. 2 families blind to unseen bonds. 2 sons beget 2 sons blessed with the gift of sight. 2 curses to set 2 children on the dark path of loneliness. 2 halves bound by blood, hunted by the unseen, and separated by time. The first child shall wander alone until he finds the light. Half a book shall wait in the light and free that which was bound. The second child teeters on the cusp of darkness, bound by destiny's touch. Half a book shall hide in shadows and choke the light with pain and blood. Let not the wolf in cat's clothing lose himself to the fear, lest he lose the light. Lest he loose the light. Apologies. Let not the light cower behind fear and doubt, lest he fall to the shadows. Let not the bonds of lives past bind the light to the land of his ancestors. Let not the book of the bound, bathed in sunlight, fall into the hands of shades. Only when the 2 halves have been reunited will the light banish the shades. legacy of the gift, bound by blood, born through deception. So that's the half of the prophecy that we know, right? Which Nyonko helpfully tells us in the following, where he says, "That's only half of the prophecy," Nyonko announced with wide eyes as he sat up on his hind legs and focused his entire attention on the book in Takashi's hands. "I think I might know another 4 lines," Takashi admitted as he dug into his briefcase. Also, he has a briefcase in, like, every scene. I know you're 32, but, like, I don't think everyone just has a briefcase with anyone. We're not going to get into the briefcase. Until he found the scrap of parchment that he had thought might be part of the same prophecy. He didn't even know about the prophecy until literally the second. He unfolded the thick vellum and cleared his throat before reading out the Japanese translation of what had been written there. So the other part of the prophecy, additional lines, extra content so you can be able to puzzle this shit out. I'm sorry, if you can't figure out what this is trying to imply, you need to take a literature class, because this is projecting hard. I can't believe it's been 2 hours. I'm sorry, guys. Go to bed or go on with your day. It's been too long. But a dark fate awaits the dark child trapped alone in the shadows by shades. Man, I wish I could write prophecies. I could write way better. No, there's more. Born of 2 worlds, he will be blessed and cursed with the gift of sight. His blood overrun by the powers of chaos and change. A twice-gifted legacy. He, the tortured soul, a human child that resonates with great spiritual power. Oh my god, it sounds like a cult. Oh my god, it's also, holy shit. So I'm gonna read, because I couldn't believe how much I'd suppressed. Because obviously I haven't gotten to the point where I bailed. And also I just didn't retain a lot of this. But that's great, because then I get to experience James Jiro Potter and such reveals as that for the first time, or like it's the first time. Man, oh my god. Also, where is it? Where is it? Yeah, it's super over-explainy. Okay, this is the conversation that happens between Toko-san and Natsume before the Nani incident. Nani? Where he's just gotten home. He's discovered that his grandma left him millions of dollars, presumably. And he's now a rich bitch, and he's, like, emotionally drained and, like, shocked, as you would be. Like, I don't blame him for this, right? But so he comes home, and his foster mother's like, "What happened?" "I spent yesterday meeting with a lawyer." "You're not in some kind of trouble, are you? Does this have anything to do with that night you vanished from your room and came back all bruised the next day? You haven't been running with the wrong crowds, have you? You know you can come to us if you need any help, né?" And 365801, you have I'm sorry, you've arrived in my reading of Haunted by Mrs. Insane One, the brilliant piece of literature that I and Tay and the greater community have discovered. I'm sorry. There's plenty of other stuff if you want to rewatch this. I do have other books that I talked about. But so he's like, "Oh, I met with a lawyer. I met with a lawyer yesterday," and his foster mother's like, "You're not in some kind of trouble, are you?" And like I get it, but also he's 32 and like what when he vanished from his room, what he is an adult and like also why does he live with his parents? What well, his family like I got questions. And then he gets like super butthurt about it, which I mean, understandably. He's like, I'm not in any trouble. I haven't broken any laws, and you've met all my friends. Takashi quickly countered with a little exasperation over the conclusions Toko had leapt to the moment she heard the word lawyer. First of all, rude. My boy would never. Rude. Oh my, no. Girl, if you want to go back to bed, I do not blame you. He's like, I met with a lawyer because I'd come across my grandmother's will when I was going through some of her old documents the other day. I just love that. Yeah, and then it is followed later by, it's like, she left most of her estate to the only child of her firstborn son, with just a couple of small bequests to a few select individuals. So this is Takashi still talking. And she's like, oh no, that doesn't make any sense. Your father was her only son, Toko pointed out in confusion. Yeah, she gave birth to a second son before she died. Nani? Oh, this is how it's written. And mwah, quality writing if I've ever come across it. Also, this he's like, I'm gonna do DNA test on my grandmother's ashes. And it's like, that's not how DNA works. First of all, it's 1986 in the timeline, or 1987 in the timeline. DNA, you shouldn't even know what DNA is. Secondly, DNA is destroyed in extreme heat, so you can't. That's literally impossible. Even now with future technology, we can't do that. That's not how your plan isn't gonna work. Yeah. Oh, but I will leave you. It's just I want to get to the lizard incident. I legitimately want to reread the lizard incident, and I want to see him like tell off Dumbledore. There's just like some stuff that I want to re-experience, and if it's as wild as I remember, because so much happened in the first 2 chapters plus prologue. I can't believe, and the revisionism of the just oh my god, we haven't gotten to like 7-year-old Harry Potter yet. In the storyline, at least. We've just been hanging out with 32-year-old Natsume, who's a bit of a, like, mean boy. I don't like him. But this is what he says. This is what he says to his adoptive mother. Well, foster adoptive mother. With a shrug of his shoulders, he accepted the cup of tea that Toko pressed into his hands. Oh my god. Tell me if this is how normal people talk to each other. I owe you both so much for taking me in and saving me from my bitter solitude. But if it will ease your mind, I'd be happy to help you with anything you want. I'll be happy to tell you that I won't be working as much this summer. And I was like, that. So, thank you, Mama, for saving me from my bitter solitude. That's the weirdest way to phrase that. Was it bitter solitude? I mean, it kind of was, but it wasn't like... There must be a better way to say that, especially as a 32-year-old. I don't know, man. It just was weird. Also, every chapter, again, in beautiful fanfiction.net ways, it has all the translations of the Japanese that's included. Yeah, so just in case you don't know that, baka means idiot. You got the translation at the end. But it also has the the Japanese name translations, and they're all they're so so also, like, I don't think this writer knows that, like, names can be written with different kanji and thus have different meanings. I don't know. But my favorite is that the translation for Nyanko, which obviously is like Nyan, like meow, and then Ko, just like a normal end of the name thing, right? That's basically that's just what his name is, right? But the translation given is something to do with cat, but I don't know the exact translation. Why did you put it in? If you don't know, why did you put it in? It also, I'm kind of uncomfortable that Shigeru is described as both luxuriant and well grown. It's just, it's a weird one, guys. It's a weird one, and I will continue reading because I like to inflict pain on myself. But thankfully, overwhelmingly, my reading wasn't too bad. Thanks, guys, for sticking with me for so long. Holy moly, it is late. But for those who came in late or weren't here the whole time, I read volumes 3 to 5 of Given. Very good. Happy to have caught up. Why am I so choky today? I don't know. I swallowed spit wrong. That was weird. And that's a sign that I need to go to bed. But yeah, Given 3 to 5, Magus of the Library, Volume 4, Golden Japanesque, Volume 1, Snow White with the Red Hair. Goodness gracious. Volume 12. Very good. Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. Volume 7. And the final 2 volumes of Slam Dunk, which is what the first 45 minutes of this video is about, generally. So, yeah, that's all I read. Thanks for hanging out with me for so long. I know I kind of went in 12 different directions, as per usual. Like, what else is new? But thanks for putting up with me. I always appreciate when you guys hang out. Hopefully it was some relatively interesting. I did actually have more to talk about than just vague memories of a weird fan fiction, but I will keep you updated on the weird fan fiction. It hasn't really gotten to the weird stuff yet. It's just kind of gotten to the weird, tedious parts right now. So stay tuned for better things. Better being the relative word there. But yeah, I'm going to go to bed because I have been up for 17 hours. And yeah, I kind of want to sleep at some point. But thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you in the next video. Don't know what that'll be. Who knows? Something. I have maybe some reviews to post first before anything else. So maybe one of those. Might be an art book video. Might be anything. I might just completely forget to make a video at all until this time next week when I've forced myself to live stream. But yeah, thanks guys for hanging out. I know it was a weird one. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. A wonderful Easter if you celebrate, or even if you don't, just indulge in some chocolate if you want. And I will see you then. Bye-bye for now.